The crowd in Sanford Stadium was absolutely elite. But boy, I'll
Yeah.
tell you what wasn't elite was that freaking defensive side of the ball. And there were times where I thought, man, I don't know if this one is going to happen for the Dogs. But Kirby Smart, man, he said it in the post game press conference. The Georgia football team is hard to kill. Welcome into the yeah, cool. Welcome into the Dawg Dispatch. I'm Jon Smith, your host. I am here with a familiar face and a good buddy, Seth Saunders from the Preferred Walk On podcast. Seth, this is 2 weeks in a row, man. I could get used to it. I could get used to hanging out with you and talking a little ball.
Yeah, me too, brother. And I think this is going to be good practice for us because we are going to have an opportunity to do this live, in color, and in person November 14th in the greatest city of them all, the Classic City, at Creature Comforts on their outdoor patio. Can't think of a better setting. 4 p.m. Friday afternoon leading into the Texas game. It's going to be the place to be. Tell the folks about it, man.
It's going to be so good. So we're going to do a live show, a happy hour live at Creature Comforts Brewery in Athens, right there in downtown Athens. It'll be me, Jon Smith from the Dawg Dispatch and the Dawg Social Club, with Seth from the Preferred Walk On podcast. We're also going to have special guests, Coach Hayes Huddle. I know a lot of you are fans of Coach Hayes. Good buddy, amazing guy, breaking down the X's and O's, and a few other surprises, maybe some giveaways, maybe a free drink on the social club or two. But yeah, all that we're going to be announcing that and talking to y'all about that over the coming weeks. So if you're watching this, you can go to Preferred Walk On to Instagram. You can come follow me at John Tweet Sports on Twitter. We'll be tweeting about it. We'll be posting about it, telling you how you can RSVP, get that free drink, and come hang out with us happy hour at Creature Comforts in Athens. Can't think of a better way to kick off an enormous weekend in, like you said, the best college town in America, the Classic City. And so I'm excited to be with you live and in person. Today, we are going to talk about them Dogs. And we're going to talk a little bit about Georgia and Ole Miss. We're going to talk a little bit about just a mid-year gut check. Like, how are we feeling about the Dogs? What's your take? And then we'll talk a little bit about college football as a whole. Like you talk about college football as a whole and Preferred Walk On, and I think it's a good opportunity to talk a little bit on a bye week episode of the Dawg Dispatch. Talk a little bit about what's going on all around the rest of college football. So we're going to get to that right now. Let's talk about Georgia and Ole Miss. Seth, I had the good pleasure of being there in Athens, in Sanford Stadium, to die 4 or 5 times. To literally, there was one point where I was looking for emergency exits. I was looking for, do they have defibrillators in this place? Because I thought for sure that Georgia, you never surrender, you never retreat. The crowd in Sanford Stadium was absolutely elite. But boy, I'll
Yeah.
tell you what wasn't elite was that freaking defensive side of the ball. And there were times where I thought, man, I don't know if this one is going to happen for the Dogs. But Kirby Smart, man, he said it in the post game press conference. The Georgia football team is hard to kill. And the Dogs came out on top, beat a top 5 Ole Miss team in Athens in front of 93,000 on a beautiful Chamber of Commerce day, and somehow, some way, found a way to win it. Give me your reaction to that as a college football fan, as kind of knowing what you know about Georgia. What are your takeaways from Georgia and Ole Miss?
Well, I really felt like it was an odd coincidence that was the day that they released the first ever appearance of the branding on Dooley Field at Sanford Stadium with Delta Airlines. And I thought as I was watching the game, I said, boy, what a huge whiff here. Gigantic missed opportunity for the Cardiologists Association of Georgia, because everybody in that stadium and watching on TV was having heart palpitations and had to call their cardiologist Monday morning. That's what this team is doing. They are not good for the cardiovascular system, my friend. But, I mean, God, brother, great theater, right? And they've been great theater all year long. And I think I always try to listen to Kirby Paul Smart because he's always trying to tell you something, okay?
Yes.
And I felt like in the press availability leading into the season, whether it was at SEC Media Days, whether it was in fall camp, whatever it may be, you could just kind of hear and tell he likes this group, man. And when he likes a group, it gets me fired up because it means he believes in them and believes
Yep.
in, where they can go and what they can be. You and I have talked about this before, but I just thought he looked so haggard at the end of last season. I thought that team exhausted him. And so it's been awesome to see him reinvigorated and joyful, to be honest with you. And it's been great. And so because of that, you always kind of have faith in this ball club, man. And look, they got a lot of warts, okay? But one thing you cannot question about this 2025 Georgia football team, they ain't got no quit in them, brother. And I can sign up for that every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. No quit. And I've said it over and over on Twitter. I've said it to people in my circles. I've said it on this show. At some point, the actual mental toughness and the just refusal to quit, the refusal to think you're going to actually lose or be out of a game, that can win a lot of games for you. That can win a lot of games. And you felt it a little bit with Ole Miss, at least I did when I was in the stadium. You felt it a little bit when Georgia got finally, I mean, dear God, finally, in the fourth quarter, finally got a third down stop, right? And Ole Miss was up 35-26 going into the fourth quarter. Georgia went down the field, scored a touchdown, didn't get the 2-point conversion, 35-33, and immediately the Georgia defense forced a 3-and-out. And that moment for me was like, yep, that you could feel it. You could feel it. I actually had Ole Miss friends. Shout out to my friend Kara Hottie Toddy Strodes on Twitter. She texted me and was like, "It's over." Sorry, Kara, to air that out here. But I had Ole Miss friends saying like it's done. Like Georgia got that third down stop, and Ole Miss still had the lead, and you just felt it, right? Because you felt the passion and the energy and the fire, if I'm channeling Kirby Smart, Paul Smart right now, of that team, right? And so I think for me that was a big standout. I also think just in general, man, like if you told me that Ole Miss was going to score a touchdown on their first 5 possessions, I mean, I don't know how, like, I don't know what I would, how I would have reacted to how that game was going to end. But I certainly would not have probably been optimistic that Georgia was going to pull it out. But man, shout out to Mike Bobo, who has gotten so much hate from a segment of Georgia fans. But Mike Bobo, the dude was in his bag. The players executed. You had Nate Frazier, who had that catastrophic fumble versus Alabama, had kind of been, you felt a little bit like that kid could have been a turtle. He could have gone in a shell, but he didn't. Came out, led Georgia in rushing. And one of the things that Georgia Kirby said at the beginning of the year, he said, we have 2 things that we want to do on this team. We want to run the ball and we want to stop the run. Right? That was 2 kind of Achilles heels for Georgia last year. And Ole Miss, they held Ole Miss to 88 yards rushing, and they ran the ball for 221 yards. And that even in a shootout like this was, and I think it was, there was a number of reasons why it turned into a shootout, which we can talk about. But when you hold a team, even if they're like a Lane Kiffin offense is throwing it around all over the field, when you hold a team to under 100 yards rushing and you rush the ball for over 200, I mean that's a pretty good recipe for success. So shout out to the offensive staff, shout out to the offensive line. Man, I thought, Seth, like this offensive line was just absolutely abusing people. Like this was watching the Georgia offensive line versus the Ole Miss defensive front was a football guy's dream. It was like, dude, these guys are they're just snatching bodies out here. And so I that for me was just such a big, kind kind of relief. But with Ole Miss now in the rear view, huge win. Gunnar Stockton, making everybody believers. Mike Bobo silencing a lot of critics. We're finally throwing to the tight ends again. I mean, so many good things that we could go into. Let's do a mid-year gut check. What does that really mean for this team? Like when you look at Georgia, what has you excited? Whether it's from this Ole Miss game or just the first half of the year, and what has you a little nervous? Like what makes you think like, I don't know, we got to figure some stuff out.
Okay, I got answers for both of those, but before we move on from this Ole Miss game, I would be remiss if we did not take a moment of silence and shout out Josh McCray. Okay, I feel like in that ball game, okay, you're talking about Dogs are down 9. Uncle Mo is firmly in the Oxford Faithful's corner. Dogs are in their own territory facing a 4th and 1. Need it, right? Need it. And Ole Miss absolutely blows up the O-line. And on the broadcast, Chris Fowler says, didn't get it. And, dude, Josh McCray just got zero quit in him. Stays low to the ground, drives those legs, gets 2 yards. The Dogs are off and sailing. I just feel like in the flow of that game, that kind of got lost. But, man, I tweeted out, if Josh McCray buys an alcoholic beverage in Athens, Georgia tonight, we have screwed everything up.
Yes.
He should drink for free the rest of the year.
100%.
So that's what I love about the game, right? Is little things like that where Josh McCray's averaging like 2.6 yards a carry, right? But he gets yards in a play like that turns the game on a dime. So, man, I loved that. And that leads into what I like about this team, right? I think they do play complementary football in this sense, all right? They share the load. There's not just one guy that's going to carry it that has to have 10 catches or has to have 25 carries or whatever it may be. I just feel like globally they have a very, very good set of talent across the offensive side of the football. And, man, look, you speak on the running game and how successful they've been in stopping the run. And I feel like we try to, get too sexy with the analyzing of all this with football. But when it comes down to it, man, it's a trenches game. And if you can run the football successfully and you can stop the run, you're going to win a lot of football games. Georgia's opponents, Power 5 opponents, are running for, I think, 3.4 yards a carry, which you got to love that. As a team against Power 5 opponents, Georgia is running for 4.5 plus. Dude, that's a win, man. That's what you want. And, man, I love that you bring up Nate Frazier. I love Nate Frazier.
God, Nate Frazier, dude, that guy – he's just impossible. Like my brother tweeted this week, he's just impossible not to root for. Like when you watch, when you see the joy that he has playing football. And what was also wild was this Georgia. So what happens when you run the football, right? Is when you run the football, you open up the ability to pass the football. I mean, it's just how it works. You open up play action. You open up a lot of the defensive front and the secondary trying to cheat a little bit to stop the run. So when you're running it with success, that opens up that. And Georgia had a 75% pass success rate, which was the second highest in I'm gonna say Georgia history. My buddy Dawg Stats posted the stat, but it was the second highest pass success rate. I'll just say in Georgia history, only behind 2015 versus South Carolina, where Grayson Lambert set the record for consecutive completions, for 24 in a row or whatever. Yeah. So I mean, again, that's what happens when you run the football, and that's what Georgia I think was missing so much last year. And and Josh McCray, it's funny that you mentioned him because there's only been a couple of times that D1 coaches have ever even known that I existed on Twitter. One of them was this summer when Brett Bielema actually wrote me a Dear John letter about Josh McCray because Brett Bielema had accused Georgia of kind of tampering a little bit because of the timing of Josh McCray entering the portal and whatever. And so I reminded Brett Bielema of how that all went down, and he didn't like it, so he tweeted me, and he started Dear John, comma. So Brett Bielema wrote me a Dear John letter about Josh McCray on
Oh, I
Twitter this
love
summer.
that.
So yeah, so shout out Josh McCray, man. And again, you're right. I mean, the guy, he had 13 yards, right? I mean, he carried the ball
Hmm.
5 times for 13 yards, but it's those moments that you can't quantify
Hmm.
in a box score. You can't quantify in a stat sheet. That
Yep.
play on fourth down, one of the biggest fourth downs that we've had in a long time, in my opinion, in Georgia, because of the stakes. Also, because you had the loss to Alabama. It's like the playoff
Yep.
picture, all those things. It was just enormous. So shout out Josh McCray and all of that. Tell me, what makes you excited about this Georgia team going into the second half of the year? We'll start there, then we'll talk a little bit about being nervous.
Yeah, so I mean, look, I think you have to start with Gunner, right?
Yeah.
I would be lying to you if I didn't
Hmm.
tell you that I had concerns going into the season.
Yeah.
And man, he has just stonewalled me at every corner, and I'm so happy about it, right? And look, man, he's completing 70% of his passes.
Hmm.
I think this is the most important thing, too. He gives you enough wiggle where, A, you got to keep a guy in the box and honor it. So you got to
Hmm.
play 11 on 11 football. And then
Hmm.
more importantly, he's limiting how much time he's spending on the ground. So 8 sacks this year, which look, that's manageable. Okay. You're not
Yep.
taking a lot of negative plays. And I don't think as an offense, which no offense really is, they're not built to play behind the sticks. And so
Right.
I just think he's keeping them in good down and distance. But I think most importantly for me with him, you can just tell guys are behind him. Like
Hmm.
he just has that grit and that moxie, and guys want to play
Yeah.
for him. And so I just think he's been really, really good, man. And I think he gets better every week, which I think that's part of it
Hmm.
too, right? We're all in some ways a sucker to be in the microwave generation. And
Yeah.
what he's got eight college starts under his belt, and so we
Yeah.
should be thrilled with where he's at
Yeah.
and what he's doing, and gone into two extremely hostile road environments in Knoxville and on the plains, and comes out with wins. I'm really, really optimistic about that. The other thing I'm optimistic about is, to your point, right? This offensive line, in a lot of ways, has been a mash unit this year. It hasn't just been
Hmm.
same five cats lined up every single week. And I think maybe nowhere else in organized sport is unity and cohesion more important than an offensive line. And so for these
Hmm.
guys to kind of be mismatching every week and still getting the job done, still putting up the offensive numbers they're getting up, you start to go, hold on, baby. When they get five across and we're starting to rep together, look out,
Yeah.
man. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of promise out of that group. And so you have to be optimistic about that. And then, gosh, man, how good has Zachariah Branch been? Every time he gets a catch now, I say, call him Zachariah on Twitter because he wants that full name, and I'm here for it, okay? We'll give you that full name all you want, ZB.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
man.
it's yes, all of that together, right? It's for me what I hear when you say that. You talked about the quarterback, you talked about the offensive line, you talked about a wide receiver. We just talked about the running game.
Hmm.
It feels like the components that Georgia was missing last year are there, right? You got a quarterback
Yeah.
that's mentally tough, and I'll just say it. I said it in February of last year on this show. I said Carson Beck before last season. I said Carson Beck needs to be more of a leader. He needs to be more mentally
Hmm.
tough. He needs to not
Yep.
let, things that happen on the field or success or failure, kind of affect the way that he is as a leader. And and I think, I'm not gonna sit here and talk about Carson Beck on the show, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like Georgia fans, y'all can we can think of what we want to think about Carson Beck. We can think about what we want to think about him throwing 4 interceptions the other night or whatever. At the end of the day, none of that
Yeah.
matters for this Georgia team. It doesn't matter what
Yep.
he's doing at Miami or what he's not doing. What does matter is that the quarterback for the University of Georgia right now is not only physically tough, but he's mentally tough.
Hmm.
He's a guy who Kirby Smart said you watch him get up from some of the hits that he's taken, and it just gives you
Yeah.
goosebumps. I mean, this is like I mean, I don't. Do you know how many quarterbacks Kirby Smart has watched get up from hits? You know, I mean, it's like at some
Yeah.
point, like you think of on the totality. I mean, if you count practice, especially, right? Practice through a game,
Yeah.
and you just think about the number of reps this guy has seen, and for him to say and it feel extremely genuine when he says it. That Gunnar Stockton,
Hmm.
like watching him play, gives me, kind of just gives you goosebumps. Wait, listen to Kirby Smart say, watching a player play gives him goosebumps is like, especially when that guy's the leader of the team, and when the guy is quite possibly, uh, outside of Brock Bowers, he's quite possibly the worst interview of any Georgia player I have ever heard in my life. And I love the kid. I love the
Yeah.
kid. I love the kid. I love that he is who
Yeah.
he is. You listen to him talking, I'm like, this dude is the dude that's giving Kirby Smart goosebumps. You know what I mean? It's like, all right,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Like there's something there when you see that,
Yeah.
and everybody, all the players talk about the switch that flips when he gets on the field, and but that for
Hmm.
me, starting there when you said that's what gets you excited, I think that is huge, so huge for this Georgia team, because when you have a quarterback that's a talented, B knows the offense and can run it execute
Yeah.
it at a high level, C is physically and mentally tough. Man, that can take you a lot of places in college football. Take you a lot of places, and but you start there and work your way out. And I think that's what Georgia fans wanted last year, expected to have last year, after
Yeah.
2023, when you come within 3 points of probably three-peating, and then you
Yeah.
come into last
Yep.
year and you're like, what in the world happened? So that's great. And then the offensive line has been so interesting to me because Kirby Smart, that somebody brought it up to him in the media and said, "Hey, through the first 6 games, he's like, you've started 6 different combinations of linemen. Like you haven't had the same
Yep.
starting five in any game." And Kirby Smart was like, I didn't really know that. Like, like he didn't even
Yeah.
know. Like, hey, like yeah, we're starting different guys. But to watch that side of the ball, has been incredible. Now, what makes you nervous? Because to me, I will say this: there's so much to be excited about, so much to
Hmm.
be as a Georgia fan to be absolutely thrilled with this team. But when you look at the goals that Kirby Smart has, this team has, this fan base has, there's also a long list of things to be nervous about. When you think about just like, can Georgia really get there? What are the things that make you nervous? Of just like, can they achieve their goals if they continue to play like this in certain areas?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we'd all be lying if you don't start and end that conversation with the defense, right? I mean, look,
Yeah.
it's I feel like every game, it's like we're in the Winter Olympics. It's a figure skating contest, man. They're on ice, and we got to figure that out, right? Like you have to have a
Hmm.
point where you can't just count on every game your offense
Hmm.
going up and down the field and saving your behind. And here's the thing that worries me the most, John. Okay, I went and did some looking because it's one of those things where you in your brain you think it while you're watching the game week to week, and you're like, maybe I'm making this up. So let me see if my bias is backed up, right? But what's an offense's best friend? A short field, right? And
Hmm.
Georgia does not play with short fields
Hmm.
all year against Power Five opponents. They have 5 drives, that have started on the other side of the 50. Okay, dude, that's not going to work. All right, you look at all of their offensive drives, and you're talking 12 plays 75 yards, 8 plays 70 yards, like. And that's outstanding from the offensive perspective, but at some point you're going to run into a defense that punches you in the mouth, and it ain't going to work out like that, okay? And it almost
Hmm.
happened on the Plains. And
Hmm.
so they got to figure that out, all right? We got to figure out
Yep.
how to turn the ball over, flip the field a little bit. Now, look, on the flip side of that,
Hmm.
Georgia's defense has done a good job, the one play after the half against Ole Miss notwithstanding, of limiting the big play, okay?
Hmm.
Opposing offenses are having to earn it. The problem is they're earning it.
Yeah.
They've
Yeah.
been so bad on third
Hmm.
down, and I
Hmm.
don't understand it, man. And here's the thing for me, okay? And I think maybe this is the biggest concern is when I look at that defense and you look at the championship defenses of 21 and 22, for me, what is missing, and I'm not saying they don't have a guy who could be this. I'm just saying
Hmm.
currently they don't have one. They don't have an eraser. And what I mean by that is if everything falls apart, everybody misses their assignment, they don't have a Roquan Smith that goes and erases everybody's mistake and makes the play anyways. They don't have a Nakobe Dean that sees things like the beautiful mind and corrects all the mistakes, okay?
Yep.
And so that gives me pause. And then I will take that one step further. I am concerned about both corners, okay? And I feel like what Kirby likes to do and inherently what Glenn likes to do, they want to have one guy who takes away one side of the field. They want to play a lot of man. And I just don't know that this secondary is really built to do that. And I think at some point they're going to have to shift strategy and get more in some zone, help these kids out. Just make it, I don't even know the best way to say this, screw up free. Like, I almost feel like they need to simplify it so the kids in the back can just let it rip instead of like, oh God, am I covering the right thing? Did I pass off this man like I was supposed to? Like, I don't know, man. I'm concerned about them. We're at the point now, we've played enough games, we've seen enough snaps that this isn't some one-off. This is what they are right now. And what they are is not a championship defense.
Yeah, and I think that would be. I think every Georgia fan would agree with that. I would hope they would agree with that. And I think what Georgia, what's been interesting is where Georgia has been living on that defensive side of the ball is, you mentioned it. It's like you come out and you're, abysmal, just absolutely, like just inexplicably terrible on third down in the first half. And then you saw, at Auburn, you saw versus Alabama, and even versus Kentucky, where Georgia, shut out Alabama in the second half, shut out Auburn in the second half, basically shut out Kentucky in the second half. Like, just really, you felt like, oh, there's these adjustments being made. There's something, it's just however we're starting, like we can't figure out. And then Ole Miss comes into town and you saw the third quarter and you're like, okay, this is the game, right? This is the game where whatever they've been doing to try to figure this out, which there's a lot we could talk about schematically that they've been actually doing in trying to make adjustments, but it wasn't working. And that's the thing is, like, you can't, to your point, what's been most surprising to me is I know Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann, they prioritize taking away explosive plays, like you mentioned. But when you look at drives, Ole Miss, 14 plays, 65 yards, 10 plays, 65 yards, 11 plays, 75 yards. It's like 12 plays, 75 yards. It's like you go and look at these drives, and it's like, dude, like that should not happen, in my opinion, with the level of players that Georgia supposedly has on that side of football, right? Like you might give up a few third downs or whatever, but you shouldn't let a team go consecutive drives marching 14 plays and 11 plays and 12 plays down the field on you, right? I mean, it's just like it's at the end of the day, it's like that's what's been most surprising to me has not been necessarily that there's been gaps in this defense. It's been the way it's been showing up has been teams have just death by a thousand cuts, and that to me is like, there's the old like bend don't break defense, but in this case, like, you bend and then you break. It's like you just it's like it's literally there's no like you're just going and until you're like, what, like, okay, well, about play 12 the whole stadium realizes, I guess we're not going to stop them. Like, you just think it's going to happen, and then it just doesn't happen. And so I think for me, when I look at the defensive side of the ball, I've said this a couple of times already, and Kirby has said, I mean, I do think, and I've said this before. Maybe I said it to you on the show last week. I will not pretend to know anywhere near any level of football that Kirby Smart knows. I will not pretend to be. I will never be as good at anything in my life as Kirby Smart is at coaching football. Like, literally nothing. Never, not a single thing in my life will I be that good at. So I'm not. I can't sit here and criticize the guy, but what I will say is I do think that he, can be a little bit. It feels like he's being a little bit intentionally stubborn, maybe like the Nick Saban, where it's like, well, you can't, like we've installed the defense, we started, we're in the season, like you can't change scheme, you can't, he's basically like saying things like there's only so much you can do because this is how it works. And when I look at that, I'm like, yeah, but I mean, I feel like Kirby Smart, I feel like Glenn Schumann, I feel like T. Rob. I feel like Dante. There's some guys on that side of the ball that are supposedly some pretty brilliant defensive minds that you could figure something out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like at the end
Yeah.
of the day, there's a difference between installing a whole new defense and actually like making, whether it's personnel, whether it's coverages, whether it's pressure packages, like that. It feels like there's things that you can do, and I think this game, hopefully for me, the takeaway I'm hoping from this game is that we have a bye week and that Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann and the Brain Trust get together and say, yep, I think there's some things that we can do and we can figure some stuff out on that side of the ball because, boy, it's, I will say this has been kind of with Alabama and Ole Miss, with Texas, the way that they're looking, who knows? But, I mean, it's the SEC. Anything can happen any given week. Any team can play at any level any given week. And you got to figure some stuff out that you can build on. And because I felt like with Auburn, second half at Auburn, second half at Alabama, the way Georgia played Kentucky basically the whole game, I felt like there were things that I felt like it was like, okay, we can build on these second halves. And then I saw this third quarter versus Ole Miss, and I'm like, oh, boy. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then the fourth quarter comes along, and maybe we can build on it. So, but I've said all along, I think, yeah, go for it.
Let me ask you this about that defense, because I've thought this in a lot of ways, okay? If Dalen was playing how they anticipated he was going to play, I think the defense looks very different, right? I think the expectation for that coaching staff, for us as a Georgia fan base, was that he's going to make the traditional year 3 leap in the Kirby Smart defense, right? He's going to make the Kamari leap, the DeAndre leap, the Eric Stokes leap. Name them, right? There's all this empirical evidence to show that it's going to happen. And given how he closed the year last year, you had to think, hey, baby, we got Dalen on the boundary. We're going to be all right. And it just, and look, I know he was kind of banged up to start the year, and so I don't know how that plays into it, but I just think if he was playing to the standard they expected he was going to play at, it gives them a lot more freedom throughout the defense. Now, I will say this too, John. DeMello Jones is interesting to me because he flashes to me more each week. And, you're just kind of trying to watch it and see a guy who's like getting it and the game's kind of slowing down for him. Whereas conversely, and I think Ellis has all the tools, the game seems very sped up for Ellis right now. And I think that's why you see the DPIs and all these things is because he's just sped up. So I don't know. That's just one man's take. And I'm like you. I don't know nothing about nothing compared to Kirby and that staff. But that's been my read on it is that if they were getting better play at the boundary corner, they'd be in a good spot.
Yeah, and my I would say my hot take, and I don't think it's a hot take anymore at this point. I'll just be honest. I'll say it with my chest. I don't think Kirby Smart and or Glenn Schumann or both or the entire defensive coaching staff has adjusted to not having NFL caliber, like true NFL caliber players at most of the positions on the defensive side of the ball, right? When you look at this defense, it's a really talented group of guys, but there aren't guys at least playing at that level where you're like, yeah, there's 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 NFL guys on that side, NFL dudes on that side of the ball. And I just don't think that Kirby and Glenn Schumann, that staff, I think they were either expecting that, like you mentioned, they were expecting the guys to make that NFL leap on that side of the ball because that's what you do at Georgia, or they maybe had a misread on just how these guys were actually going to perform when game time came around, and I just don't think they've adjusted, right? So I think they're running a lot of the same stuff that they ran, but when you're running it, and you've got Keely Ringo out there and Malachi Starks, up high, and you got and you got freaking Jalen Carter on the defensive line, and you got
Yep.
those guys, right? Javon Bullard. So when you got those guys out there, it's a lot different when you're running the same scheme versus when you have again, no offense, but like Josh Horton is playing really well, but like it's Josh Horton, it's not Jalen Carter, right? Like you
Yep.
again, it's like these guys. I think a lot of them have the potential to get there, but they are not there yet. So I think that's for me. I think that's my
Yeah.
read. Is just the coaching staff just hasn't adjusted to like having guys not playing at NFL caliber on that side of the football.
Yeah.
All right, real
I think
quick,
that's a
we're gonna
great
do a little
point.
bit of we're gonna do a little bit of college football rapid fire before we get out of here. I just want two takes from you. College football as a whole.
Yeah.
Your take on the season so far, like what are the vibes that you're feeling from this college football season, and give me like a little bit of, I don't want to say prediction, but maybe just like leans on what's going to happen in the second half. Maybe a dark horse for Heisman, maybe who can win it all. Just let's just go 90 seconds. You just unload the barrel on your take on college football as a whole.
Okay, vibe check. Vibes are high. This season has been outstanding. Okay, it's just been. I think I told somebody last week, Broadway don't hold a candle to college football. Okay, it has been absolute theater every single week, and I'm here for it, man. Give me the playbill. Okay, I've loved it. For me, what I love is I feel like in a lot of ways we're in the upside down for college football. Okay, you have an
Okay.
Indiana team that is looking like the best team in the country. You have their head coach who is not taking the Penn State job because the Indiana job is quote unquote better. It's just
So
but
what?
I love it, man. Right?
Yeah.
It's so many storylines. I'm going to throw a name and a team at you. Let's
Okay.
talk about the Navy midshipmen, okay? I really, really think they're interesting in the American, and I think it's because of what they do on offense. And we're going to tie this back into the Dogs, okay? Their offensive coordinator, Mr. Drew Cronin, teammate of Kirby Paul Smart at the University of Georgia, and just lighting it up as an offensive coordinator with Navy. They run this really cool kind of wing T spread. Blake Horvath following up on his excellent season last year. I just think they're a really, really fun team to watch. And man, look, the world's always better when one of the academies is good. So I think that's a fun one to watch in the American. And I'll just say in general, the G5 race for those playoff bid and maybe bids has been really, really fun to watch. So that's something to keep an eye on. I think for me too, man, it's how I think wide open the whole thing feels. Even Ohio State, whose defense has been 2021 Georgia good, you still kind of look at them and go, yeah, but we haven't seen them play X, Y, and Z, right? Like they're not going to play Indiana in the regular season, so we're going to have to wait till Indy to see that ball game. And so I think there's still a lot to be learned across the country. And let's talk about a player who you and I talked about this on the show last week, who I think should be getting more capital R respect on his name, and that's Haynes King, man. This Georgia Tech
Yeah.
team is
Yeah.
moving, and there is not a player in the country more important to the success of their ball club than Haynes King. And so, yeah, man, I think his name should come up a lot more in the Heisman conversation. But yeah, man, it's just been such a fun season with so many good players and I think good stories. And look, for me, that's what makes college football what it is. It's the characters that are involved with it. And I just think if you love this sport and you haven't enjoyed this season, I can't understand you, because I literally am counting the hours till kickoff each week to see what's going to happen. It's just been, man, it's just been awesome. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it, man. I can't wait for it every single week. My co-host James has termed it "glue your ass to the couch Saturday," and so that's what I always text him. I'm like, it's another GYA Saturday, baby.
I love it. I love that. I'm gonna use that. I think that's what my wife says about me, like in football season in general, under her breath usually.
Yeah.
But no, I love it. We're
Yeah.
gonna own it. Well, a GYA Saturday. We got plenty more of them coming up. Seth, I'm excited to be with you in a couple weeks in Athens at Creature Comforts for the live show. We will be announcing that. You can and you can probably look in the description of this podcast and see where you can RSVP for it. The Dawg Social Club will buy your first drink if you RSVP. We'll do a happy hour live. Can't wait to talk some ball with you live there November the 14th at Creature Comforts at 4 p.m. And tell the folks where they can find you, where they can follow you before we get out of here.
Yeah, man, we're on all the social platforms. So Twitter, I guess X now, Facebook, Instagram. We're active on all of them. Man, we're even on TikTok. My kids make fun of me for that, but we're even on the we're even on the TikToks. This old guy is on there. They tell me that's what you're supposed to do, and then we post all of our stuff on YouTube. We're really trying to be better about video content, and we are currently starting. This is the second week in a row we have featured an FCS level head football coach talking about their ball club, which has really been a lot of fun. So yeah, man, tune into that. Yeah. We're trying to bring something different to the space, and just trying to have as much fun as possible. So man, I can't wait to see you on the 14th.
You had my guy Coach Englehart from the Blue Hose, the Presbyterian Blue Hose last week. So yeah, go check that out. Subscribe to their YouTube channel, and we can't wait to see y'all in Athens on November 14th. Really enjoyed it, Seth, and we'll have you back, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you, brother. Go Dogs.
All right. Go Dogs.